Hey podcast, just before we get you to this episode, I wanted to invite you to join us at pageantlaunch.com. We are starting the world's first dedicated pageant review site, and we want you to join our launch team. All you need to do is put in your email address. It's completely free. We are looking to make the pageant industry safe, transparent, and fair, and we'd love your input on how to do that. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, whack in your email address, and let's get you to this episode.
Hi guys, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project. It's too early in the morning. Pageant Project. I've got Lauren as usual. We're missing Danielle, and our special guest for this week is Sarah Davies. Sarah, did you just want to introduce yourself for people who aren't familiar with you first?
Yes, so I'm Sarah Davies. I am the current International Ms. Great Britain. 2020/21 because we've been postponed, so I guess I get an extra year.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with extra years or who have missed competitions because they don't exist anymore. Now, just before I circle around to Lauren, Danielle, if you are around, I hope you're okay. We're obviously missing Danielle, and I think Danielle's taken the last couple of weeks pretty hard. So Danielle, if you are all right, no, you don't need to pop on. I'm not going to force you to pop on, but I hope you're okay. If anyone knows if Danielle's okay, please let us know. So Lauren, let me unmute Lauren. I had Lauren muted for some reason.
Thanks. It's what you wish you could do the whole way through this thing, is just keep me muted.
No. See, Sarah, I don't know if you know, but Lauren always has this, it's kind of an ongoing joke, but it's semi-serious that I'm going to replace her with someone else. And the other week, because Lauren's been having a tough time, obviously, the other week Lauren wasn't on. So we just had Danielle and our guest. And I have to say, Lauren, the banter is not anywhere near as good when we don't have the both of you on, you see? So,
well, what can I say? Me and Danielle are like the dream team.
Clearly.
We'll be replacing you soon, Adrian.
Oh.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what was I going to say? But this just proves I made a good pick when I picked you two to be my co-hosts, because I thought you two would, I didn't even know if you guys liked each other, but I thought, well, even if they hate each other, well, I don't know. You never know in pageant world.
It'll still make interesting viewing, right? If they hate each other. So
it will,
still
but
be
it's
entertainment.
probably not the sort of viewing that I want. I'll just be there in the corner, just hiding by myself. But Lauren, do you want to catch us up with what's going on? What's been going on the last week?
I can't remember what has been going on.
Lauren, you're dropping out. Got you.
Okay. Hello?
You're dropping out a little bit. Try again.
Oh, I just said about nothing really much has been happening. I can't really remember what happened in the week, but it's just been hay fever, and more hay fever. What
has the weather been like in the UK? Because in my mind, partly because of Corona, I've forgotten that it's actually summer for you guys and it's winter for us. And to see you guys suffering from hay fever and then some of you getting heat stroke, to me is a bit like, oh, it actually does get hot in the UK. How bad is it in the UK?
It's been getting to like 26 and stuff in places.
Yeah.
That is a
which
heat
is
wave.
Good for us. Like, that never happens.
Especially in May time.
But the thing is that we've never really had garden furniture because we're not like ones to sit out in the garden, but now that we've been home so much, it's given us more time to focus on getting the garden sorted. But the only issue is garden furniture is sold out everywhere. So now we had a builder come round and he's coming to make like garden furniture out, like pallets and stuff like that.
What, he's come to your place to make furniture?
Yeah, for the outside area. Obviously, he's gone into the garden. We've social distance, but he's going to be doing the garden for us so I can sunbathe.
Okay. All right. This is something I haven't heard of before, but it makes sense during
Have you not seen them
during
made out of pallets? They look so cool.
And it's good for the
no.
planet.
Well, no. Normally, I mean, if we were to get garden furniture here, we'd just buy it from like a nursery. They would have the pre-made gardens. I mean, if it's inside stuff, we
Yeah.
have IKEA. I don't. Do you guys have IKEA? You must have
Yeah.
IKEA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's got IKEA.
Yeah.
That it's sometimes I have this recurring nightmare about IKEA because here we have such big ones that it's probably it's like a good 4 stories high, and you walk through these aisles just filled with pallets of furniture, IKEA furniture, and you just think if there was an earthquake and it fell over, literally you'd be buried and you'd never ever find your way out. That's how huge these things are. IKEA, I find, is a very divisive
Thanks for that image.
topic.
I'm never going to IKEA ever again.
Yeah, see, people either love IKEA and it's
I
the
love
best place.
IKEA.
You love IKEA. See
My
what I
dad
mean?
hates
I
it
love
though.
IKEA.
Dad hates it.
People either go there and they love it, like they'll spend their free time there, or they hate it so much that you can't drag them in kicking and screaming. I go there for the meatballs.
Yeah, one of my uni mates made a guy take her on a date to IKEA so she could have meatballs. Like, legit.
An IKEA date.
Yep, so she could have meatballs.
Who says romance isn't dead?
Well, that's a bit of a cheap date, though, isn't it? Because the food's not that expensive.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So
it's not expensive, but I don't. I guess if it floats your boat, it's probably not the first place I'd think of to take a date. But no, I haven't heard of this. Like someone coming to my place to make furniture. So I'm just looking at these comments. Hannah Golding has said that she's burnt. Ellie is saying, "Hey
the
guys,
other day on my
hope
chest.
you're all okay." There's this old joke that when it gets to 25, you guys over there, that's a heat wave and you get heat stroke and you start burning. But obviously, it's not a joke because you actually do.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah has been to Australia. You came to Australia for the games, and Lauren, you go to Thailand all the time. How do you guys deal with? I mean, 25 in Australia is a mild summer day. How do you deal with like 30 or God forbid 40?
I mean, my sister lives in Dubai and she's like blonde and pale skinned, so I'm not really sure how she copes out there, but I'm quite lucky. I've got my dad's skin tone, so I kind of manage and get used to it, and I travel so much, I think that I've got used to it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lauren, how do you deal with Thailand? Because that's not just hot, that's humid.
Yeah, the humidity's gross.
Yeah, it is. I enjoy it though, because like last time, like riding around on a motorcycle, wind in your hair, like it was just nice and breezy.
Motorcycle. That sounds much more exciting. Joe said, does IKEA have cinnamon rolls? This is a different we always end up talking about food. Or at least the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had so little to talk about. We end up talking about food all the time.
Every time I go to IKEA, though, I always end up buying a packet of the Dime bars.
Yes, Dime bars and Copperberg cider.
Okay, so 2 questions. First off, what's a Dime bar? And secondly, isn't a cider alcoholic?
Yeah. So IKEA here have the little food sections. So a Dime bar is like really hard, like caramel, like coated in chocolate. You need some. We need to get you some somehow. And they have the little food market bit where you can buy all like Scandinavian food, including Copperberg cider, which is like fruity cider. And yes, it's alcoholic. They do non-alcoholic versions, but
I don't think the IKEA here actually. I could be grossly wrong. This shows you how much of an IKEA fan I am, but I don't think IKEA here sells alcohol. They definitely sell a lot of sweets and meatballs and all the other stuff.
It's like takeout, not like you can't sit there and get drunk. It's like supermarket to take out.
Drunk shopping in IKEA, that would be
Imagine
fun.
how much money you'd spend though if you drunk shopped in IKEA.
I just have this
like,
image.
See, like, the plant pots, you're like, oh yeah, they'll do.
No, I just have this image of like Sarah getting drunk and then climbing up the shelves of IKEA just as a workout. Just CrossFitters, bless. They're always working out everywhere. So doing some kipping pull-ups onto the top shelf of IKEA. I can see that. I would totally go to IKEA to get drunk because it's so cheap. I mean, and I would never buy anything from IKEA. I'm not going to impulse buy from IKEA. The thing with IKEA, it's gotten a lot better, but it used to be the joke in the day. I don't know if it's still the case now, but back in the day, whenever you bought like 100-piece thing and it's supposed to turn into a cupboard or a chair, you'd get to the end and there was always one piece missing. Is that the same in the UK? Because that's always the case here.
We used to have that joke, but I've never had that case, but I've heard the whole thing behind it too.
I've had that many times. Freya, that's a wrong we. Your autocorrect has gone Scottish. Taps. So I don't know now if it's a misspelling or that taps F at 20 or is it tops off at 20?
It's written in Scottish colloquialism, so you have to read it in a Scottish accent and then it'll make sense.
I am not getting that in Scottish. Taps F.
Tops off at 20.
Yeah. Apparently acceptable for the lads to wander the streets. Can't say I'm a fan. Can't say I'm a fan either. Let's go through the comments. Joanna is talking about, yes. Oh, hang on. Diam cheesecake thing. Oh, is it Diam? I thought you said dime as in like a...
Cheesecake.
What's Diam?
A dime bar. You just say it like dime.
I call them dime bars.
Yeah, but it is spelt like that.
Adrian, this is the comment that I get all the time whenever we're talking about lollies. It's normally in caps and it's someone yelling at me going, oh my God, you don't know what this is, followed by you need to try it. I'm not a huge sweets person, but I have like a laundry list of sweets that I'm supposed to try. Okay, so Joe, if you're watching, and can you message Danielle? Because I am worried about Danielle because she's supposed to be with us and she's not on, so I just hope she's okay. Look, obviously, we keep it pretty casual on this podcast. This week has been properly horrifying, I think, for all of us. Everyone has seen it with what's happening in America. And I did want to talk about it because I think it's important that as a community, we get to talk about it. I know in the UK, you as a country have probably dealt more with racism and terrorism than certainly Australia. I'm not going to say we have no racism in Australia, but to give you an idea, for example, with Corona, Australia has pretty much flattened the curve and we're now slowly getting life back to normal. And I've got to say with Corona, I've never been more glad to be in Australia because we tend to be fairly sensible about these sorts of things and also we're isolated from the rest of the world. And when it comes to racism and terrorism, let me start by asking you this. So I have not really dealt with racism at all. I have been called things a couple of times. I've been bullied in school, but I get the feeling that a lot of people were bullied in school. So I'm not really putting that in the same boat. But in terms of racism or any other form of discrimination, have either of you two been the subject, have been subjected to it?
I mean, I've never been subject to it. I have witnessed it, especially when I've traveled to some of these like Eastern Bloc kind of countries. And, you know, we do have a really diverse team, our weightlifting team. And I have seen it when we've gone to like Kazakhstan and like they've never seen a black person before and like they're crowding around like one of the girls and trying to take pictures and touch her and that, but that's not in a sense of it being you know, offensive. That's just them just being, you know, they don't understand and they've never seen a black person. Yeah. But then I've also seen it where they have only learned from popular culture from outside of their world and have shouted abusive things at my teammates. And the first time it happened, I just froze. Like I didn't know what to do because I grew up in a really white middle class area. And it wasn't until I moved away to uni that like my eyes were opened a little bit more to, you know, the diversity that we do have in this country, which I think we're fortunate to have that kind of diversity in this country. And I've definitely been educated myself more in the last sort of 10 years or so. But yeah, I've never directly been affected.
Yeah. Lauren, what about yourself?
I mean, being in an interracial couple, you know, I get when people ask, where's my partner from, I'm constantly faced with comments about the country and about what their culture's like, and sometimes the comments can be quite uneducated. It's something that you will face and you will have to answer one day. It can happen in any couple, really. But yeah, I never knew how to deal with it though. Like when I first openly admitted that I'm going out with someone and this is where they're from, people would make comments, oh, they eat cats and dogs there, and it's like, no, they don't. Like, it's just like the cliche racist comments that are thrown around, and they think it's funny and they think it's a joke. Well, it's not funny and it's not a joke, because it's actually it's someone that you're talking about. So yeah, I've experienced that probably recently, because obviously I've only been in my relationship for a year and a half now. So in that year and a half, there's been quite a few comments thrown around. How I deal with it is going to be very different moving forward, because I was in kind of like a place of shock when the comments would be made, even by friends or people that you work with or people that you meet along the way. And I do really believe that education is something that needs to be brought forward more about these issues and about why you can't say these things. Yes, you may find that funny, but it's actually not funny. Racism isn't funny. It's a very serious topic.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's uneducated, and like people who have, lived in like close communities where they've grown up and not been educated, and then their parents, and then their parents therefore haven't educated them, and kind of going down it that way, that it's just then this self-fulfilling thing that if people don't go outside of that environment, they don't learn outside of that environment. And I'll hold my hands up sometimes.
They're not learning it at home. Yeah.
Like I'll hold my hands up sometimes to my friends and be like, look, I don't know, like, what should I be doing right now? Like, some of my mixed race friends and stuff, and they're like, look, just do what you can, and sort of talk through it that way. But one of my really close friends is mixed race.
Every single day as well.
Yeah, and we were actually only talking 2 weeks ago. I was like, because her mum is white and grew up in a really like white middle class area, and started dating her dad, who's a black man, and she was telling me that her grandparents were getting abuse from their friends, being like, how can you let your daughter date one of them, and stuff like that. And you think that's not that long ago, and I find it baffling to hear that kind of stuff, and to know that people can speak about other people like that. And I guess that's my naivety in wanting to know, like, the world to be a much better place than it is. And I think it does come down to education, and there's a lot of stuff on our TVs right now, like on the daytime stuff today, being like, sit down and have this conversation with your kids and explain to them like what's going on in the world. Like, don't hide it from them. Yes, like, it's not very nice to hear it in the news and to watch it and stuff, but they need to learn for this to move forward and to stop.
And ignorance isn't bliss at all. The saying goes, ignorance is bliss. It's really not. We do need to not be ignorant to what is going on in the world, and actually take in everything that's happening. I mean, I constantly, whenever I meet my friends like Zara and Nina and stuff like that, and Tina as well, like Tina Baker, when we went to Grand together, and I'm always asking them questions about how they grew up and what have they been subject to, and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, because I think each day we have to ask these questions so that we learn more firsthand from people that have gone through it. And it sometimes people don't want to ask the questions in fear that they would offend someone, but I suppose they would rather answer those questions in such a safe environment than you go around being ignorant to everything that's going on in the world.
I think it's the same with several topics. Certainly, mental health pops straight to mind. I think we're getting better as a culture talking openly about mental health, and I think racism and sexism, all these are difficult to talk about. But as you said, it's very important to talk about. I have a friend in America, and she follows all of this stuff very closely, and she's also very empathetic, so she's very sensitive. And she posted up a tweet. I haven't checked this, but I will assume that it's correct that one of the very high ups in American politics tweeted out that there's no such thing as systemic racism in America. And sometimes when I read things like that, and also she tweeted, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there was someone who drove a semi-trailer or a truck into a crowd of Black protesters, and he's been arrested. Obviously, the policeman who murdered George Floyd has since been arrested and charged with murder, and I've since seen that he's been moved to maximum security for obvious reasons, and his wife has divorced him. And also, I was watching an interview with with one of the protesters, a Black protester, and they were talking about the violence, which obviously I'm not a fan of violence. I certainly understand in this case that it helps get the message across, but still, but he was saying actually it wasn't them in this case who had done the violence. It was white people. This is really interesting and quite frightening. White people who wanted to cause a ruckus. So they infiltrated the protest. I mean, they're not going to stop white people from entering the protest. And it was the white people who set fire to things. But then the Black protesters got blamed for it. And I think, Lauren, what you said about just needing to be open, and Sarah as well, just being willing to accept that you don't know everything. And I've seen this on some of your guys' posts, the pageant community in general saying, I don't understand it, but I'll still stand with you. And I think that's super important, because I, for one, I'm not going to say I can possibly understand what it's like to be a Black person living in America. I can't. I have a Black friend, and he was telling me that he was just sitting in his car with his kids, minding his own business. He was on the phone, and a cop literally came up to him, no one else, just tapped on the window and started questioning him in front of his kids. And this has happened several times. And that's just the way he has to deal. That's what he's got to deal with.
It just blows my mind that that happens in the States, because I consider like the UK, the States, Australia to be,
West.
really Western.
Civilized, hopefully.
Yeah. And it blows my mind that is occurring in a country like that. There's some countries where you kind of expect that behavior a little bit more, where they are less civilized, less developed, and all that kind of stuff. But then for it to be happening in the States, it really does blow my mind, and I just can't get my head around the fact that people treat people that way.
I watched the news as I was having my dinner tonight, and there was a Black woman that was a part of the protest, and she was like, I don't agree with the violence, but if it gets your attention, then we've got the attention of you now.
And there is a certain element of truth to that, isn't it? I mean, I can't remember, I think it was Will Smith. I think the tweet's been going around, the quote's been going around. He's saying, I don't know if you guys can remind me, something to the amount of racism has always been there. It's now just being filmed. I think
I saw that.
I'm paraphrasing, and what I wanted to show you, and I don't normally do this, but this morning I got sent an Instagram story by someone on my Facebook page from a former Miss Universe. You're going to see the name because she's posted in public, so I'm not going to scrub out her name. I think it's really important that we talk about this, because this is kind of a different level, because there's people you go, okay, you're saying that because you're ignorant, in inverted commas. I don't like using that word, but for want of a better word, you're ignorant, you don't know what's going on, so you've said that. This one's a bit different because it sounds intelligent, which I think makes it even more dangerous. So Lauren's saying that she's seen this. I don't know if you guys can read this. I'll blow this up.
Yeah, I've seen it on one of the pageant.
Tiny on my screen.
Yeah, so this is as I understand the ex-Miss Universe Malaysia, and I'll read it out. So she said, to the Black people, relax. Take it as a challenge makes you stronger. You chose to be born as a colored person, in inverted commas, in America for a reason, to learn a certain lesson. Accept it as it is. Till now, hunger and poverty still exist. It is what it is. It's inevitable. Best you can do is remain calm, protect heart, don't allow it to crumble. That's your responsibility. And then on the right, I don't know if she's written this or someone else written this. Of course, this is to the ones who understand this level. and state of mind not for everyone, and that everyone grows at a different rate. So I'll ask you guys what you think of this. But look, first off, I completely disagree with this. Secondly, the tone of it is extremely condescending. And then this idea that people are choosing to be born as, I don't...
It's as if saying that they deserve to have hate directed at them, which is not true. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. We're not, well, yeah, in terms of equality, we are all different, but we all need to be on the same level with this. And I think maybe the lack of education towards her viewpoint on this is really showing through on that.
Well, she was saying, I don't know this girl. She was saying that she's had experience with racism, which I don't doubt. She said as I believe, a white person living in Malaysia. But in one of the other posts, when she wrote, you chose to be born as a colored person, she wrote that it was something to, in her belief, it's your soul chose to be born as a colored person so that you could somehow deal with the difficulties and become a better person, which, look, I don't know where to begin, but the real problem I see with this is it's from someone who's obviously represented the biggest pageant system in the world. Secondly, it sounds quite educated. Like, she's not just throwing out hate. I mean, I can poke holes everywhere in it, but she sounds like she's got a reasoning behind it. And there will be people who look up to this person as a role model, because that's what you pageant girls are, your role models. And to see someone put this up, to me, is really, really worrying. But it's just the relax, take it as a challenge makes you stronger. I mean, and then you chose to be born as a colored person. Sarah,
part
you
of me is really hoping that this has got lost in translation and that English isn't their first language. Like, that's part of me, like, hoping and praying that is the case, that it has got Google translated with all the wrong kind of words and everything else, but you don't know that. And it's people come from it from a religious perspective, and you're put on this planet, God's given you this or whatever to do this path or whatever. And even if that's where she's coming from, like, that doesn't make it acceptable for other people to treat that way. Like, if you are coming at it from a religious standpoint, one of the things from that side is you love each other as your neighbor, and that's so that whatever angle it could possibly have come from, it's still not acceptable.
When she says, like, relax and calm down, that's like something you'd say to maybe someone that's going through, like, bullying, and this is how you can deal with it. But I think racism is on another level than just, like, it being bullied at school, or maybe someone's giving you a hard time in work. Like, you can relax and calm over that and learn a lesson from it. But from racism, it's not the people that have got racism directed at them that need to take it as a lesson. It's the people that are throwing the racist comments out that need to learn and have a lesson on how not to be racist and how to accept others.
There's the fact that if you're irate, the last thing you want someone to say to you is to relax. And calm down. Like, even if you're just in an argument with a significant other, like, and they're like, relax, calm down, it just makes you, like, freak out even more. So
does she not realize that, like, so many lives have been lost? Like, people are dying.
I believe, and I don't know her, so I don't know, but I believe that she's seen everything that happens. And the way that she's chosen to take it is, and again, I find this arrogant to the extreme, is that everyone should see it as a lesson, and that it's basically the path that God gave you, and that somehow your soul chose it. So the idea being your soul, before you were born physically, chose to be born as a colored person in America because it needed to learn a lesson. I find that offensive in many, many ways. And then who was it? Stephen Fry, obviously in the UK, he's very, very well known. Someone asked him in an interview, when he died and goes to heaven, what would you say to God? And most people think of a really nice thing or a really inspiring thing. And he went off on he in a very controlled way. And he said, how dare you? How dare you, create a world where, for example, children are born and he gave some very, horrific, like children born with bone cancer. And this is the issue that I have with this whole, the God thing, or bringing the religion into it, is that I don't think it has any place in this. Those people, I don't care which way you put it, those people are not choosing. George Floyd did not choose, he did not manifest being murdered. This is the difficulty I have with this sort of argument, and the fact that she's written it out, and as I said, it seems quite intelligent. It's not just one sentence, and it's obviously ignorant and it's full of misspellings. It seems quite intelligent, but I know that there are people who think like this, and there are people who think other ways as well. But I think I just wanted to bring that up. As I said, I don't normally do this. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this? I mean, I'll bring it up again.
I do know that since that story was put up, Miss Universe Malaysia has put a statement out there. Not that it makes it any better, but they're acknowledging that what she said is wrong. I don't know whether they've taken her Miss Universe 2017 Malaysian title away from her yet, but I hope they do, because they shouldn't want anyone like that representing their brand and company, and especially Universe shouldn't want someone like that.
Yeah.
She's competed with girls from all over the world, and if that's her outlook on racism, that they should just relax and calm down and take it as a lesson, I think she really needs to take a long, hard look at herself in the mirror.
I think that's the thing as well with pageants, like sport, it brings people together from every single corner of the world. So you are exposed to people of different cultures and different backgrounds and different ethnicities. So you should be a lot more educated on it, than somebody who maybe isn't and doesn't see the outside world and hasn't traveled and all that kind of stuff. If you're in the pageant community, you are going to see things. Like I said, I got more educated the more I traveled and moved out of my little bubble where I grew up. And even just that term, colored, I remember a white guy on my team using that word around two of the black girls on the team. And one of them nearly freaked out. The other one was calm down, I'll handle it. And was just what, are they blue with orange spots? Everyone has a color, whether it's white, whether it's black. That whole term of colored as well is so dated and so archaic now as well in our culture. And it's one of those things that has evolved. Even I remember as a kid, what you used to say to people of a different race, it's changed and it's moved forward. And just that whole statement is crazy.
We're trying to progress as a nation, and I took going to Miss Grand International. It was a massive opportunity for me to sit down with girls from all over the world and say, how was your life growing up? How did it differ from mine? What can I take from your life experiences? And I remember sitting down with, I think it was Miss Grand Cuba, and she was telling me her story about how she came to live in America and the sacrifices that her parents had to make to provide a better life for her. I understand how privileged I am, but being able to sit there and listen to other people's stories really changed my outlook on how amazing all these girls were that had gone to Miss Grand International and what they'd gone through in their lives just to get them to where they are and how successful they've become from it.
Yeah, you would definitely hope that after going through a pageant of any sort, but let alone an international one, that it would have opened your eyes, not closed them. The other big argument that I've seen is talking about Black Lives Matter, the hashtag, and then some people have been arguing that it shouldn't be Black Lives Matter and that all lives matter. And when I saw, because I was in America, I put it on my Instagram, I was in America just after Trump was elected in. I was going to say for the first time, but the only time. And that's what triggered the women's marches. They were massive. They were all over the world, not just in America. But I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time, which is very close to Chicago. And Chicago was having a women's march. And my friend and I decided we should go. We felt it was the right thing to do, to go. And a lot of women felt incredibly unsafe. It wasn't just let's go and have a march. It was, they literally were very sad and very scared and very anxious when Trump was voted in. And we went to Chicago, and there were so many people there we couldn't actually march. We just had to basically stand in place. And even at that time, and this is sexism, but all forms of discrimination have certain things in common, there are people saying it shouldn't be about, women being paid equal. It shouldn't be basically about women. It should be about everyone. And I think we're seeing a similar thread here with it shouldn't be Black Lives Matter. It should be all lives matter. And there are a lot of people coming out saying that, and I think it's quite, again, ignorant in a way when you're seeing something like this and people are using the hashtag Black Lives Matter, that you go, no, it should be all lives matter. Like, I get it, but the focus at the moment, and I've seen some, I can't remember who it was, I've seen some people say at the moment the focus has to be on what's happening in America. I mean, do you guys have, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm sure you guys can deal with it. Do you guys have any thoughts when someone says it shouldn't be hashtag Black Lives Matter, it should be hashtag all lives matter?
Like you said, like, of course everybody's life matters, but not everybody is being treated equally. And that's the whole point of the hashtag Black Lives Matter, because their lives are being unnecessarily like taken from them because of the color of their skin. Like, again, it's, it's this whole like white supremacy thing. If you're saying all lives matter, then it takes it back around to that. And like you said, the whole point of the hashtag is because of what's going on right now. And that has been going on in the States for the last 400 years or however far back it dates. So that's the whole point of it. Like, of course, everybody's life is precious, but not everybody is being targeted and their life taken from them, too soon because of the color of their skin.
Yeah. Lauren, do you have any thoughts on it?
You don't fix a problem by having the whole thing in front of you. You have to take it apart and realize what issues are amounting to this whole big issue. Of course, all lives matter, they do, but I'm not being targeted. It's Black people that are being targeted, and if anything, we need to nip that in the bud and educate a lot more people on what is going on in the world and stop turning a blind eye to it, because it's my duty to stand up with my friends of all races that have gone through racism and say, no, actually, this needs to stop. We need to start standing up for them and becoming allies rather than being ignorant to it and turning a blind eye.
I think that's the thing, is that term, like ally, like there was someone on the news earlier, a Black lady on the news, and she's like, we need our white brothers and sisters to stand with us and, and protest with us, not to just kind of sit on the sideline and watch. Like, we need, she was saying, like, white people do have more power, and therefore we need to utilize that power to make the change. Which I just thought was a really kind of interesting way to look at it as well. Like we acknowledge that this is going on. That's why we need your help. And I don't know if you saw the protest stuff. One of the white police officers was being targeted. So there was a load of Black protesters that, created a barrier so that he could kind of compose himself and be safe. And that just goes to show that, like, we all bleed the same color. Like, we all need to look after each other and stop that targeting.
I mean, I must admit, the first 2 days, I didn't even know how to put into words how I was feeling or what was going on. And Zara made a profile picture thing with I think it was We Stand Together, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And I changed that to my profile picture just because at that moment in time, I couldn't comprehend. It felt like I didn't know firsthand what was going on, so I needed a couple of days to gather my thoughts together to really write down and know how I was feeling and what was going on. And it's such it's like a subject that can open a can of worms, but those cans need to be opened and it needs to be spoken about.
I think there's a lot of cans that have been opened. As I mentioned, women's rights is one that's been opened, and similarly to what Sarah said, a lot of women said we need men involved because, very, very often the problem that you think.
Oh my
God,
my cat just attacked my foot.
Feline comedy to the rest. Are you okay?
Did you wiggle your toes?
That you having an earthquake or something over there. You jumped. Are you okay? You look like you've been
I'll be
traumatized.
fine. I'm just bleeding a little bit.
What a lovely cat.
Sorry, I just interrupted then.
No, I was just going to say that when I was marching in the women's march, I mean, there were a lot of men there, because a lot of them quite accurately point out it's not actually really so much a women's issue, it's more of an issue with men. And similar to what Sarah was saying with the Black Lives Matter, it's white people that actually need to get invested and involved in it. Well, and not just white people, anyone who's not black, anyone who's not been discriminated against.
But that's the thing, with like the women's march and stuff, people forget that you can be a man and be a feminist. Like, people think that to be a feminist, you just have to like burn your bras and all the rest of it and hate men. But actually, the true meaning of a feminist is completely the opposite. And, you know, and a man can be a feminist. And I think that's what gets forgotten a lot of the time too.
Well, I had a very interesting experience with that, because I was, because my friend that I went to the Women's March with, she was posting some of the footage that we'd got from the march up. And then I was commenting, this guy out of nowhere started having a go at her, you know, the type, you know, internet trolls. And I don't normally get involved in arguments on the internet because I think it's a bad idea. But I was sitting right next to her and I thought, I'm not going to let this go. And I was defending her. I was being tactful about it. I wasn't being rude or anything. And then he wrote back to me saying, you wouldn't understand, you're a woman, because my profile picture wasn't of my face. I think it was of my logo. So he just made this assumption that if I'm leaping to the defense of women's rights, that I must be a woman. And I thought that was really, it's interesting on one hand, and it's very sad on the other as well, that someone assumes that because you are defending women's rights, that you must be a woman. And similarly, that, you know, to be interested or invested in what's happening at the moment in America, that you have to be black. I really think it's a flip side. I think it's everyone else who needs to get invested. I mean, obviously in America, there's a lot of black people invested in it. But I think that this news item has, I think similar to what Lauren has said, a lot of people have taken a bit of time to they've needed a bit of time to sort of digest it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, and think about how to respond. And I don't blame them at all, because I think this is a huge issue on top of what we've been dealing with Corona, obviously. I did want to ask you guys, I've mentioned that I feel lucky. Like, at any time I've ever felt lucky to be in Australia, it's right now, with things like that going on and with Corona. In terms of systemic racism, obviously we've seen what's happened in America, and I've told you guys in Australia, we definitely have some against the Indigenous Australians. I'd like to say it's getting better. It's still very prevalent, but violence is completely, like, I could never imagine something like what's happening in America happening here in Australia. It just, I can't fathom it. In the UK, in terms of racism, where does it sit? Is it more like Australia in that it's there, but it's not to the American level? Is it more to the American level? Where do you guys
I'd
feel
say
that
we
it
probably
sits?
sit about halfway, but it depends on where you are demographically.
Right.
Like if you're in like London and stuff, I feel like generally it is, you know, a bit more open. And but if you go to some parts of like, you know, like white working class, like parts of say Manchester, like it is still, and I've witnessed it at weightlifting competitions in Britain. You know, there's a guy who is from Cameroon, is here seeking asylum, and therefore competes at the British. He's got his like paperwork to be a citizen, and I've seen you know, a coach kick off because his athlete got beaten by him, saying, yeah, but he shouldn't be here, like he's not British, he's like this, that, and the other, and like throwing, you know, really abusive stuff around. And I like, it's, so I think it does depend. Like you've got quite a lot of diversity now throughout the UK. So I think there is that, but then also because of the diversity, you then still have a lot of people that are quite backward with it. But I wouldn't say we have the violence. We did have some riots and stuff not that long ago, a few years back, and the same sort of thing, like the looting and stuff. And I think that was triggered by a racist incident. But yeah, I'd say we probably sit about halfway. Like on the fence with it. Not quite to the end of you guys, which is much more peaceful, but
we only kind of see what the media wants us to see, and that's one of a huge issue within every kind of country, isn't it? The media tell you what you want to see, and how it's perceived is by them. I would probably say that it does happen more, but we probably just don't see it because it's not brought to our attention. So I would say with Sarah, yes, probably halfway, but then I wouldn't like to say I'm correct on that because there could be a lot more that is going on behind the scenes that we just don't ever hear about because no one wants you to hear about it. It's covered up.
And I think a lot of our racism isn't. Oh, we lost you.
Media.
The connection's a little bit. Sorry, Lauren, your connection's was dropping out a little bit. It's just really, really delayed is all. That's why Sarah kept interrupting and then stopping.
Sorry.
I don't think we have like in America it is very targeted at Black people. I think here because of our immigration and stuff, you get a lot of racism on that thing. You get a lot of people being like, these people are coming into my country and taking my jobs, and I'm like, no, you're sat on your butt on the dole, like claiming benefits. You've not tried to get a job, so nobody's taking your job because you've not applied for it. So I think that we get a lot of that, like people coming to the UK, to better themselves and to get themselves a better life. And we're lucky that we have that diversity, but then you do get the people that then will take that as a negative as well.
In Australia, I mean, obviously being Chinese myself, although I was born in Australia, I've lived all my life. Hang on, Lauren, start that again because we didn't hear the beginning of it at all.
I'm really late, aren't I?
Okay, go for it. We're going to be silent.
Okay, shall I pop back? Okay. So in Wrexham, we have a very large Polish community, and working in a state agency, I see a lot of them come in and apply for housing and stuff like that. And I have probably heard a few racist remarks towards Polish people, but I've got to say they do work so hard, and they are some of the cleanest. Like whenever they rent houses off us, we never have any issues. We probably have more issues than with UK people than we do with Polish people. They appreciate coming to this country and they work hard because they do want a better life for them and for themselves and for their children. Yeah,
it's difficult. I mean, I've mentioned. Oh, good. So Danielle was okay. Thank you, Joe. What was I going to say? I talk quite often about the need to have a sense of humor. I'm not saying that what's happening is funny at all, but in terms of, for example, I don't know if this is the case in the UK or in America, but in Australia, there's a joke about Asians that we're all very bookish, we're all nerds, we're human calculators, we're good at maths, I think it was a South Park episode of someone, it's like he's poking an Asian guy going, do math. And I gotta say, I find that funny. I don't find that offensive. And there's this kind of line that you need to be very careful of is where is it funny? And where is it not? And there's no one way to just say it's funny and it's not. But on top of everything else that's been happening, I don't know if you guys have seen, like with China at the moment, because obviously Trump is saying that it's China's fault that COVID happened. And then China's looking to take back control of Hong Kong, even more so. Obviously, it used to be a colony of Great Britain. And Trump had a go at them. And now China is putting in the press, because they control the press, saying basically that America should let the rioters and looters have their say, because that's what America wants to happen in Hong Kong, because America has supported the pro-freedom movement in Hong Kong. And I just find it very, very difficult being Chinese and having no connection. I don't know if you guys have had this, but for me, it's always been I've identified as Australian, and what my people, in inverted commas, are saying about what's going on in the world and latching onto something like what's happening in America and using it sort of for cheap political jokes. I find it very, very distasteful. And then also when I've traveled overseas, and there's this joke that Chinese people don't know how to queue. That's not a joke. That's an absolute truth. They don't. They just make a huddle and they push forwards. I remember I was coming back from the UK actually, and I was on a Chinese airline. This is the only, I've never flown a Chinese airline again. And it was 98% Chinese, and there was like one white guy. And you know, when you're getting off the plane, you're all stood up and you want to get out. This Australian, he was in the middle of all these Chinese people who were about 2 feet shorter than him, and they all just started pushing towards the exit. The door wasn't open, mind you. They were all just pushing, because that's what they do. It's not their fault. They're not educated any differently. That's the way it happens in China. But this guy cracked the absolute shits, and he turned around and yelled at these people, there's no point pushing, the door's closed. And they all looked at him really shocked. And this is what I found as well. When you confront them, they were shocked. And then 5 minutes later, they all start pushing again. But you see, it's really difficult. And I don't know, he's a much smarter person than me. But obviously, what's happening in America is not funny. But I think there's also, and this is not the time for this conversation, but especially at the moment, I think we do need to have some sense of, let's forget humor, but hopefulness at the moment, because I think it's very easy to look at everything that's happening in the world at the moment, whether you look at COVID. Obviously, Lawrence had a very tough time with it. You look at what's happening with America now, basically burning. You look at what's happening with China, and you just look at the world and go, what's the point? And I actually think a lot of people at the moment, I think that might be one of the reasons why a lot of people are struggling with it, is because there's so much horrible stuff going on in the world at the moment that it just feels completely overwhelming, and we don't know when COVID's going to be over. So do you guys, in terms of what, let's say in the UK, because I've seen a few posts about this, in terms of the UK, have you read any posts, or do you have any suggestions in terms of what people could do to get involved or to make a difference? Because I think at the end of the day, that's probably the biggest question. Is it's one thing to get upset, but it's another question in terms of what can I actually do to make a difference?
So I think for me, it is obviously down to education, donating, making sure that Danielle, oh my God, I've just woken up. It is.
Hi, Danielle.
I've got a young niece, and just making sure that she knows that everyone is equal and everyone's the same, and you have to love everyone no matter what. And it really starts from the younger generation. So what we can do to help is just educate and have these open conversations when they're needed.
Yeah. I think it's difficult having these conversations, obviously, but I think it's very, very necessary. And I think these conversations will become easier as we have them more often. Daniel, I'm just glad you're okay. We were worried that something had happened to you. So what? You've just...
It's 10 o'clock.
10 p.m.
She's just woken up.
You are not sleeping tonight, Danielle.
Danielle, you're doing this wrong. I think
Lockdown body clock.
Too much sun and wind for 30. I love how the UK gets thrown into turmoil because it's 25 degrees. It's like, oh my God, we're all burned to a crisp. How hot was it? 25? I'm like, what? But I often make jokes about UK trains because UK trains seem to stop all the time. I don't know if it's still the same, but when it's hot,
They're
they
awful.
stop. When it's cold, they stop. When it rains, they stop. When it's windy, they stop.
I've seen it before. Trains cancelled because there's leaves on the line. It was autumn. Of course there's leaves on the line. Do something about it.
Was it? How many?
I don't get trains, I just drive.
Leaf?
Or if you go into King's Cross, they just have a generic thing. They just say trains may be delayed due to inclement weather. So rather than making loads of different things for the weather, it's just inclement weather to cover all scenarios of whatever that might be.
How does a train get stopped by leaves though? Of all things to be stopped by. I don't know.
Who knows?
People have told me in the UK, yeah, you can take a train, but it's a bet, whether it actually turns up or not. I'm like, I'm not okay with that. If I'm planning an international trip and I need to be somewhere, I'm not okay with, turn up. It might turn up, it might not.
I spend a lot of time in Germany, and their transport is phenomenal. But like, I've heard them complain about their trains being late, and their trains are never late more than 3 minutes, like wherever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can you complain? Like, my train just doesn't turn up because there's leaves on the line, and you're complaining that like it was a minute late. Like,
Have either of you been to Japan?
no, I went on a bullet train in
No.
China though when I was there in December.
Yeah, Japan
was cool.
apparently they if the train is even like 1 minute late, then they have to offer an apology, and they have to give you, I think, all the train trips the next day for free, and they even give you like a letter for your employer to say, please excuse so and so, they were late because the train was late. That's very
Except being at
different to
school.
here, and by the sounds of it,
Very
it sounds very
polite.
different to the UK. Well, yeah, but it's also very important for them to turn up to work on time, so they get an excuse letter to give to the principal when they turn up. Danielle, how are you? Danielle, it's all right. We forgive you. Well, I forgive you. I don't know if the others will, but I'm just glad you're okay. So.
I might forgive you in the future.
Yeah,
Okay.
we might let you off.
Might let you off this time. Maybe we should replace Danielle, Lauren, not replace yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I'm joking.
Do you guys have anything? Obviously, we've talked a lot about some very heavy material, and I think that's a good thing because I think it really needs to be talked about. And I hope the situation in America sorts itself out sooner rather than later. You just don't know. Obviously, it's hugely important. So however long it takes is however long it takes. And I just hope everyone stays safe and everyone thinks a little bit more about other people. But in terms of what's coming up in the next week, first off, are you guys still in lockdown? What's happening with lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, me and Lauren might be slightly different because they're doing the home nations have all got their own rules. But you can now go outside and meet like people from another household, but only outside. And exercise, but in terms of like construction and stuff have gone back under strict rules and stuff, but football starts back in like 10 days, I think. Basically little bits.
Snooker
they're trying to get
back today.
Snooker.
They're trying to get the economy back up and running as much as possible, but we're pretty much still in lockdown.
And horse racing came back today.
Yeah, and horse racing.
Oh wow. Okay.
No one cares about weightlifting though.
We're basically no. We're I think we're the same though, because they've said to us that we're allowed to. My cat's attacking me again. We're allowed to.
Oh, go away! I love how you're scared of your own pet.
She's evil.
She's a cat.
We're allowed to meet. I think it's up to 6 people, but from 2 separate households. But you're only allowed to travel 5 miles to meet them. But my sister lives 5.6 miles away, so we'll maybe have to meet in the middle somewhere for a picnic.
See, for us, we're allowed to travel anywhere now in England. So you've got loads of people driving to like the beach and like hot spots, like. That's what you get for owning a cat. I mean, I love cats, but they're savage.
It's never a good sign when their tail is switching. That means they want to play. Yeah. You need to give her attention, otherwise she's just going to beat you. I'm just fully expecting her to jump from your webcam at your face and just see cat on face, and then I'll need silence Lauren because it'll just be cursing and screaming coming. Yeah. Cat, have you got her? I mean, dogs we've never really had an issue with. Dogs just need to be patted. I remember when I was interviewing Claire Beebe, the whole interview I felt horrible for her because she needed to pet her dog the whole time under the table because her dog wanted attention. But what? Yeah, see, just play with her. She's going to jump at your face. Oh, he was. Dear me. So okay, it sounds like in the UK things are gradually returning to normal.
I'll find you a new home.
Yeah, we're slowly getting there, but there's the concern of a second spike and stuff as well. I mean, you guys did a great job in Australia and like New Zealand, just shutting it down and not letting anyone in. But you're always pretty kind of strict with that anyway. So I guess it wasn't anything, you know, like your border control is quite tight and stuff. So it was easier to do anyway. Whereas for us, it was fear of the unknown. But like the thing for us, if you come into the UK before the 8th of June, you don't have to quarantine. But if you come in after the 8th of June, you have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. So makes no sense. Why? It makes no sense.
There's a new law coming in on the 8th of June, isn't it? That if you travel to certain countries, when you return, you do have to quarantine. So, for example, if you went to Spain, I think Spain are saying you don't have to quarantine because they're fine. But if I don't know whether Thailand will be on the list. So if I went to Thailand in September and then came back, I'd have to then take another 2 weeks off work.
Oh, wow. Well, so that law is not in place at the moment. You don't have to quarantine if you...
So, Lauren, if there was a flight going, could go to Thailand and come back on a 3-day turnaround and be fine. But if she went in a week's time, she'd have to quarantine when she came back.
I don't understand. I mean, in Australia, we're not allowed to fly internationally unless it's basically life and death.
You kind of can't really. There are flights going, but they're pretty much just repatriation flights.
Okay. So. Well, that's very weird. I mean, Australia and New Zealand are in talks to set up like a little trans-Tasman travel bubble. So people need to get out and travel because they're all going crazy. So
the Scandinavian countries have done that, I think. They've got this little travel bubble, like little pockets of Europe basically have. Because my brother's in Slovakia and he can go to Austria and stuff now, but you can't, only for 48 hours though. You can't go for too long, man. Everyone's just winging it and making it up as they go.
There are so many bizarre rules, and you need to keep updated with it constantly. But it sounds like a lot of things have changed just in the last week. Sounds like the UK is beginning to open up. In Australia, in my home state, New South Wales, a lot changed on Monday. We're now allowed to have, I think it's up to 50 people in restaurants and 20 people, I think, in cafes and things like that. And we're hoping that there isn't a second spike. To give you an idea, yesterday there were 3 new COVID cases in New South Wales. That was it. So hopefully we are over the bump. But I do think we had a huge advantage because our quarantine laws were so strict to begin with. And that really helped.
Because one of our things is a lot of the stores are opening again, like the retail stores are opening. So you can go to Primark and be surrounded by a bunch of strangers, but you can't go into the house of your parents, if you don't live together. It makes no sense. You can go and leisurely stroll around the shopping mall or whatever, but you can't go and see.
Well,
in
Australia,
I can go back to work and go inside other people's houses, but I can't go inside my family's house.
Well, we've allowed people to go back to pokies, but we still haven't reopened the gyms. So pokies, you can go and touch a screen and all that, share all that stuff, but we haven't reopened the gyms. The fitness people are not happy about that. I can assure you. There's a lot of gym owners going, "What the hell are you doing?" Allowing people to go to the.
We've got some return to training for elite athletes, for professional sports and Olympic sports. It's kind of pending, but then you've got anyone who's ever competed at sport ever being well, I'm elite, and I'm competing in the, yeah. But,
really good. I'm elite. I should be let back to training. It's I don't think that's what elite means.
I'm just looking forward to McDonald's opening on Wednesday, so I can't wait for that.
Are you going to join the drive-through queue?
I am. I joined the KFC crew, and I am joining the McDonald's crew now.
So, did KFC open before McDonald's?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So KFC is open drive-through, and McDonald's is going to open the drive-through on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are you going to order, Laura? I'm sure you've been giving me a lot of thought.
I'm going to order 5 chicken selects with a barbecue dip and chips with no salt on them, a Big Mac, a spicy chicken wrap, and a double cheeseburger.
How many people are you ordering for?
Myself, and then I'll see what my mum wants.
That's comprehensive. Sarah, where do you sit on? Because obviously you train a lot. So some people go, you train that much, you can eat whatever the hell you want. I know it's not like that, but do you ever get like McDonald's cravings or KFC cravings?
Oh
or you
yeah, like
stay away from all that?
people expect me to eat like 12 raw eggs a day and 3 whole chickens or something. Like
Oh yeah,
my life is so
absolutely.
different to that. But that's what people
I feel
expect
sorry
me
for
to eat.
chickens. Never be a chicken around weightlifters. Like you just chicken. They eat the eggs and
I've
then they
just
eat the
got,
chicken.
like, visions of Sarah like this with chicken.
But no, I'm like, especially out from competition. If I'm like the last couple of weeks into competition, I say strict, but not that strict. Like I'm a sweets person, like bags of Haribo and stuff is that's my thing. But like I do like, I'm really upset about lockdown is that we all missed cream egg McFlurries because it was Easter and we missed McDonald's Monopoly and cream egg McFlurries. So I am a sucker for a McDonald's.
I hope McDonald's do the Monopoly like in 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah,
like 2 weeks.
I reckon they will to get people in, like to get the money coming back through the door.
Already got all the tickets printed and everything ready to go, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I just realized Adrian probably won't even know what that is because it only happens at our McDonald's.
Do you have Monopoly?
We have Monopoly, but do you know, like, is it a regular thing for you guys? For us, it seems
McDonald's
to be
Monopoly. It's every year.
Oh, I didn't know it was
Once
an
a
annual
year.
thing to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same time every year.
Get fat around Easter time.
When you guys say Haribo, have you guys seen? I don't know if this is the same. Have you seen some of the reviews about? I think it's Haribo gummy bears.
I love the gummy bears.
Okay, hang on. So I'll show you this. We can wrap up on this. So I will. Here's a story.
Don't ruin Haribo for me.
So let's go to this paragraph here. It started out with a little cramp, which is so this person is on a plane, which is normal with gassing on a plane. You do not want to...
Oh no.
You've gone.
Where's he gone? Come back. You have to start again. We lost you.
Oh. Okay. It started out with a little cramp, which is normal with gassing on a plane. You do not want to fart on a plane, so you hold it in. It is airplane etiquette. This is about someone who's eaten Haribo, okay? Which is why I'm curious when you guys say that you love Haribo. Let me just get rid of Louise coming for a sec. The cramps intensified, the sweating started, and I began to notice the older ladies looking over at me. About 30 minutes into eating these bears, my thinking went from, oh, these are just farts, I can hold them, to, oh, dear God, not here. I have been a Christian my whole life, and this is the test. If there is a God, please help me leave this plane with my dignity intact. After waiting for the intense cramp wave to pass, I stood up and jumped out over those two women. I could not wait for them to stand, so I stood up and tried to shimmy past them. I think a toot came out, and because I heard one say, oh, Lord, was that you? After reaching the aisle, I waddled to the back of the plane where the least amount of risk would be. To my dismay, it was in use. That left one bathroom left in the front. I looked at, okay, hang on. Okay, so you guys love Haribo, and I know that you've talked about it. Does this not happen to you when you eat Haribo? Because every time you guys say that you eat Haribo, all I can think of is these reviews, and there's so many of them. If you Google Haribo funny reviews, which is what I just did, what is it? Was it after 5 minutes of stop and go, I made it to the bathroom and was pulling my pants down as I entered the bathroom. The door was still unlocked as the sweet release was underway. I thought I died. I thought this was it. Even though I was on the throne confessing my sins, I thought my time was called. I lost count on how many knocks at the door there was. I must have been in there for 45 minutes, but I made it. And the last sentence is, I recommend these bears to anyone, but please eat them responsibly.
No, unless maybe if you buy Haribo in different countries, they have different ingredients
sugars
in them.
In them.
I didn't know they had laxative effects. It's not an issue I've ever had, and I've eaten quite a lot of Haribo. So
same.
Okay, so because I just wanted to clarify that, because you guys talk about Haribos all the time, and every time you talk about it, all I can think of are these reviews. I don't. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that was a good way.
I mean, what makes you look up Haribo reviews in the first place, anyway?
Oh no, this is back in the day, Sarah. I think it went viral. Someone sent it to me on email and said, "Have you seen this?" And then I looked. I couldn't stop. You know when you read something and it's just so funny that it sticks in your mind and you can't stop laughing until you start crying. There was another one about basically a recipe for Christmas pudding, and basically it was pour some vodka in here, then have a drink. I think the first 3 steps were have a glass of vodka. And then as the recipe goes on, the recipe becomes more and more sort of confused because obviously the person's got drunk. And then at the end, it says, throw the pudding away because it's not going to work and kick the cat. So I remember that one as well. Okay. All right. Now I really want to read all these Haribo reviews because they're classic. Okay. Before we wrap up, does anyone have anything exciting coming up over the next week or so? Or are we still in quarantine, lockdown life?
Only my McDonald's on Wednesday. That's the most exciting thing.
That counts.
Yeah. Man's life's not that exciting. I do my work and train.
But I can talk about that next week.
Oh.
Because we've got another. It's my birthday, isn't it, next week?
Oh, yeah.
You're asking us.
Lockdown birthday.
Yeah,
Lockdown
very much
birthday.
a lockdown birthday.
You're the 10th of June, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Gemini. Multiple personalities.
That explains a lot.
I was going to say that.
You walked right into that one. Okay. All right. Let's leave it there. Look, thank you, Sarah, so much for your time and being on.
I mean, I feel like I've been fully prepped for pageant interview now. Like that was, everyone's always scared about the political questions and stuff in pageant interview. Like I feel like I'm fully prepped and ready now for if that hits me.
I think that it's actually, all jokes aside, I think that's why a lot of the pageant community has taken a bit of time to sort of write their posts about it, because they want to make sure they're making having a considered opinion, which I think is fantastic.
And
but
an
I think
educated opinion as well.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the more often we have these sorts of discussions, as difficult as they might be and as horrible as they might be, I think the better off the world's going to be when we come out of this. And Lauren, thank you so much for your time as well.
You're very welcome.
Oh. Lauren disappeared just as I said thank you to her. That wasn't awkward at all. And Danielle, we're glad you're okay. Glad you enjoyed your sleep in like a grandma, having a nanny nap. And now have fun being awake for the next 8 hours.
I'm slightly offended that she didn't want my company, though. I feel slightly offended that it was my company that she's decided she was just going to ignore us.
Well, to be fair,
Danielle fell asleep and then has only just woken up.
Oh, I can believe that. I absolutely can believe that. But I mean, this is episode 30 of this podcast, and for this one to be the first one that she's happened to miss, like just by accident, that's not bad. We'll give her a pass. She's betting at 3%. If she misses next week,
I'm usually on holiday and miss quite a few of them.
Yeah, but you let us know. I'm talking about like just not turning up. I mean, us hoping that you're okay, that you haven't, done something silly. Okay, all right. And thanks to everyone for watching. Stay safe. Stay safe, but get involved. You can see there's a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain in the world. So stay safe, but get involved. And we will speak to you. Lauren, are you going to say something?
I said stay safe and stay educated.
Or get educated if you're not educated.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's nothing wrong with reading a few things and doing your research before posting an opinion. Okay, we'll see you next time.
What's up, guys? It's Adrian again. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to head over to pageantlaunch.com, join our launch team for our review site. It's super important to all of us to make sure that the industry is safe, transparent, and fair. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, whack in your email address, and we'll speak to you next time.